everyone. It's 5:30. We want to make sure we're aware of everyone's time. I am on here with Kaylee and Sunny. I'm Kristen Beckler. I'm one of the instructors for our programs here at UC Santa Barbara. I typically teach the therapeutic play class and the theory class, and I'll let Kaylee introduce herself. Um, yeah, and then I can go on and on.
I'm Kaylee Chang. I am one of the instructors at UC Santa Barbara PACE. I specifically teach the death, dying, and grief and pediatric care most commonly, and then I also teach a child life preparation course, which is geared more towards students who are ready to pursue child life internship. And I also am the internship coordinator, so for students who are ready to take that next step with child life internship, I would help kind of guide you in that journey. And I'm happy for you guys to be here. Thanks.
And I'm Sunny Kim. I'm just the program coordinator for Child Life, and I'm here just to facilitate, answer any questions. But the experts are really Kristen and Kaylee.
Well, thank you guys. So Kaylee and I have been child life specialists for a long time, and we have seen the ebb and flow of what it takes to become certified. The process has changed a million times over, and we do our very best to keep up with the trends and what's going on and all the new rules. So we're going to talk a little bit today about the latest and the greatest with some of what's going on to get certified. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. If you can't, please just drop in the chat and Kaylee and Sunny um, will make sure that we can all be seen. So this is what we're going to go through today. We're going to talk about the pathway to become certified. If this is a new experience for you, we're going to talk about our program very specifically, the courses that we offer, the prep course that Kaylee teaches. She'll go into great detail about that, how to become affiliated with our program, and then what it really means to be affiliated. And then we're going to answer all your questions. So we're really excited that we have a smaller group so we can actually answer quite a few questions in the time that we have. So that's exciting. So, overview, child life specialist, this is really just what we do. So, if you are brand new to learning about child life and this is your introduction, welcome. It has been a very nice career for myself and Kaylee. Child life specialist, our goal really is to reduce trauma associated with being in the hospital. And we do that by providing different sources and resources and support to patients and families in the hospital. So, it could be doing procedural support, coping techniques, parental support, sibling support, normalizing play. There's a lot of tools that we have in our toolbox that really help kids in stressful situations get through what they need to get through. In these stressful situations, it could be in the hospital, it could be in the dentist office, it could be in the community. Child life specialists are everywhere these days. So this is kind of the professional term of what we do, but there's a lot of ways to child life. I'm guessing, is this chat? Do I need to be doing anything with this, or Kayla, you're looking at? Okay, great. So this is the roadmap. This is really the start and into your path to professional certification. So we encourage you here at UC Santa Barbara to start that eligibility assessment as soon as possible. Because we are a non-degree seeking program, you can get a certificate with us, not your certification, a certificate. We do require that you already have a degree or are working toward your undergraduate degree. And so take that eligibility assessment so that you can see what's already counted. So sometimes you've had child development classes, maybe you've had family systems or a research course. Some of that stuff might actually count toward your certification. So when you go to childlife.org, which is our Association of Child Life Professionals website, there's an eligibility assessment that you can go through, and we're going to go into a little bit more details about that. I think I actually do go through more details of that. I probably should have looked at this and refreshed my brain. But we'll go through what that looks like to go through the eligibility assessment. So then coursework, there's 10 required courses that you need to take. We offer them all here at UC Santa Barbara. And we'll go through all the classes that we offer, what those look like. And then there's the pre-internship experiences. That can be volunteering, that can be a child life assistant, that can be a practicum. There's a lot of different ways to get pre-internship experiences. And then of course, the internship. This is a very competitive process. Internship is not easy. It is hard to get. They are very competitive programs, but we have had a lot of really great students come out of our programs that are getting internships that are well prepared and ready for it. So we have a lot of faith in our program. And then your last step before you're officially certified is the exam. How many questions are in that exam these days, Kaylee? Do you know?
Yeah, it's I believe it's 125 questions, potentially 150, but 25% of them are non-weighted, so they're like pre testing out questions for future exams.
I see.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe Kaylee can talk more to the exam. She helped put it together. All right, so the eligibility assessment, it can be started at any time. And throughout that time, you can add classes, you can add to your degree, any clinical experiences you have it. So you start and you pay for it. I think it's $80. Is that right, Kaylee? It's $80. You pay for it one time, and then you just keep adding to it. So if you've taken a child development course, you add it to the eligibility assessment. The only class that needs to be verified is your child life introduction, and we call it theory at UC Santa Barbara. That's the only class that needs to be verified. And we do ask that you send that to us electronically. There is a paper form, but it is very time consuming. You have to print it out. It doesn't always work in Adobe Acrobat or whatever it's called. So please send it to us electronically. I get 20 of these a day sometimes, and it's real easy for me to go through them electronically. And so the eligibility assessment is where the ACLP will take a look at your courses, look at your syllabuses that you've already had, and they'll decide if that counts or not. And then you'll really have a better idea, a bigger picture of what you need to take with us. Um, You'll need to submit transcripts, so make sure that you have transcripts from all of your universities, and you can enter all your clinical information, academic information as well. So the eligibility instructions I've linked here. I don't know if you can still see the screen anymore. Probably not. Can you see the new screen or no?
No, we just have the
Okay, let me stop sharing and then I'll reshare. Okay, so this is the instructions, and this is all on childlife.org, and this tells you how to get into the eligibility assessment. So you log on to the ACLP website, which is that childlife.org, and there is a profile button where you can click on your profile, and then there's these three little lines. I would show it on mine, but mine looks very different because I'm already certified. So I can't actually pull up what one looks like. But once you see those three little lines, you'll click on that, and then there's a whole menu of things that will pop up. One of which is this My Child Life events and then certification, and you can start your eligibility assessment. And it just walks you through that process where you create a new collection, and then just keep reading the instructions and add on. And if you have any issues, there is somebody named, I think his name is Alex Rodriguez, and he is in charge of all the certifications. And he is so good at walking students through this. He's walked me through it. I've had to go through it with him as well. So you basically just start the process, you pay, you submit, and then all of a sudden you have access. So you can just keep adding on to it.
Hey,
Hopefully that makes
Kristen, can I add something really quick?
please.
I just had walked with a student through this last week, and there was a little hiccup, so I just want to let you guys know because this is kind of a issue that they're seeing. So first of all, like Kristen said, like you have to do this part if you want to be certified. So it doesn't exactly matter if you do it earlier or later. It's a one-time fee. But I highly recommend you sending, once you're done with a specific um, university, you send in your official transcript. So update that as soon as you can so that you're not having to wonder if something's counting or not. But what Alex informed me of is that when you actually pay for your eligibility assessment, there's 24 hours before you actually have like the right um, access to be able to enter the courses. So my student in particular was ready to enter her courses right away, but then she kept coming into all these obstacles and entering them. And he said there's kind of a little glitch to where once you pay for it, it's going to look kind of funky on the screen until at least 24 or at maximum 24 hours later. Then you'll be able to start entering your classes. So give it a second before you reach out to him because that's kind of a known little glitch right now.
Okay, that's good to know. Um, so yeah, so ask questions about this eligibility assessment. We will certainly help you best we can. Again, this is just a link to the course verification form. Myself and is Amy Sunny, is she the one that teaches the other theory class? Amy or
Yes,
Vanessa?
Amy.
Amy. Yeah, so Amy and I typically teach all the theory classes. Um, and so we just prefer to do it online. The form, again, is just time consuming. I get a little lost in them sometimes. And because I get so many every week. I just filled out 2 or 3 today. It really is helpful for us if you can do it through the eligibility assessment. Okay. So then the courses, there's 10 required courses that you have to take. It doesn't matter if you've got a degree in human development or child development or education, you still have to have 10 very specific courses for child life. The first one is a course taught by the child life specialist, and that is typically your child life theory class or your introduction to theory. Again, at our university, we call it theory, and that's the one that needs to be verified. 2 child development courses, and those typically need, and Kaylee, correct me if I'm wrong, they need to be not whole child, like 0 to 18. It should be divided up, correct?
Oh, no. So actually, you have to take two classes. It doesn't matter how they're broken up, but
Okay.
between the two, they have to cover birth through 18 years of age. So it could be two that are that age. It could be
Okay.
one that's birth through 18 and one that's a adolescent specific. It totally could vary on how you do that, but it has to cover those between the two.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I had been told once they prefer divided up, but that makes sense actually. And then the family systems course, the therapeutic play course, loss and bereavement or death and dying. Again, at our university, we call it death and dying. A research course, and this needs to be a lot of all research, not just one type of research. And then 3 additional courses in related areas. Those are going to be your electives. We do have quite a few. Oh, I thought, did I take that off? We do have quite a few options at our university. Don't we have a slide on that? Let me just make sure. Um, yes, we do. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure we had a slide on that. Sorry, so we'll get back down to that. So we'll go through the exact courses that we offer. But this could be courses in anatomy. This could be an ethics course. It could be a diversity, equity, inclusion course. There's a variety of different options that you could get for the 3 additional courses. And they do have quite an extensive list of options. And we'll go through ours. So then the clinical experiences, you have your pre-internship modules that the ACLP provides. These are just educational opportunities. So you can go through the different modules, learn about different child life techniques. We actually, in my practicum, I work at UCSF primarily, and for our practicum students actually go through the pre-internship modules. So that's something we do as part of our learning with our students, is to do the pre-internship modules. And they're just a learning opportunity that you can complete, like an online educational opportunity. There's volunteer and work experience. I always recommend to students start volunteering at your local children's hospital as soon as possible. I cannot express how important it is to get hospital experience. The ACLP just really says it can be anything. It can be community based. It can be a variety of different ways to meet this pre-internship experience. But you're going to find when it comes to applying for internship, they are going to be looking for hospital experience. That's just what I have found with students that I've worked with. So volunteer as soon as you can in the children's hospitals. With hopefully the child life department. Like we have quite a few volunteers right now who have been actually at part of our UC Santa Barbara program at our hospital right now, and it's been fun to see them in person in real life. Work experience, that can be being a child life assistant, that can be a playroom coordinator. At UCSF, we have a child life assistant. I know at Stanford, they're called recreation coordinators. They run all the playroom spaces, and that's a way to actually get paid while you are getting some experience. So there's some hospitals in Sacramento. I think Shriners actually has some playroom assistants as well. So there are opportunities out there. You just have to look for them at different children's hospitals to see if they have assistants or like recreation coordinators. And then there's courses of practicum. Not all hospitals offer a practicum. So they can be a little more challenging to find, but they are out there, and that's a great observational experience. So you can spend time with a child life specialist, observing what they do. We have a practicum student right now who's actually from UC Santa Barbara, and I was helping with a dressing change on a patient, so she was able to observe me, and we were able to talk a lot about like development and how I use distraction and followed his lead. He had some developmental disabilities. So we just had a really rich conversation afterwards. And so it was just a wonderful experience to kind of see a student from Santa Barbara go through this practicum experience with me today. So again, a practicum is just an observational experience. Sometimes there is some opportunities for like therapeutic play or normalizing play, but for the most part, you'll be doing a lot of observation. Let's see. So UCSB overview. Kaylee, do you want to jump in here and talk a little about the overview and then maybe some of the classes? I don't want to
Yeah, sure.
dominate here.
Yeah, absolutely. So our program at UC Santa Barbara, all of our classes are pre-approved by ACLP. And ACLP, when we say that, it's Association of Child Life Professionals, like you see kind of below here. The reason why that's important is because if you are paying for classes that you want to count towards your eligibility assessment, you want to make sure that they're going to count, right? So we actually have ACLP pre-approve those, so you don't have to really worry about that. So if you're like, hey, I really need that research class, or I really need that class taught by a child life specialist, the theory and practice class, or, I really need something specific that you didn't get in your degree. Someone was asking about, their master's program and does their research class count? And I answered that question, but say you needed that specific research class, you would know that at UCSB, that class would absolutely count no matter what. You're not going to be worried about that. Um, and a lot of our students they've completed their degrees, maybe a bachelor's or graduate level degree, and they discover child life a little bit later in the game, or their university didn't offer the classes. So that's a lot of our population of students. We also have students who are international or who, are just like, hey, I want to kind of see if this is the right field for me. We have students who sign up for our classes as well. But I think the thing I love most when I look at my students is a very diverse group of individuals. We don't have any student who has the same background or has the same, course experience. So it's really, there's not really like a wrong way to do it or an order of your classes. We might recommend that you don't jump right into the death and dying class if, you've had a recent loss, but in general, you can sign up for the classes when you want to sign up. There's not really it's not a degree earning program, right? So you can kind of take them as you would like, and it fits with your schedule. Whether we have a lot of students who also are balancing work, right? But our classes are asynchronous, meaning they are pre-recorded. We pre-record our lectures. We release them at a certain time of the week, and then you have the whole week or sometimes more to complete the assignment. So it's really kind of go at your it's not go at your pace, but it's go within your time frame within the week, which is really flexible. So we have a lot of students who are working and doing lots of other things. So yeah.
Perfect. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, our courses. So I'll talk about a couple of the courses, and then I'll let Kaylee jump in. The Child Life course is our Introduction to Theory and Practice that myself and Amy teach, and that is offered typically in the summer and winter. We just wrapped up. I have a lot of finals to grade, but this is a course where you're really just going through the Child Life Handbook and learning about preparation and the child life documents. We do touch a little bit on death and dying, but we have a class for that. We talk a little bit about play. We talk about everything from school reentry to assessments. There's quite a bit we go into in this course, and we squeeze it all in the 10-week period. The child development course, as Kaylee already mentioned, what we're looking for, but we do offer these two courses. So our courses, maybe that's what was getting me confused. We do have ours divided up into birth to 8 and then 9 to 18. When are those offered? Do you know, Kaylee? Or is that on the next page? Next page. There we go. So here's all the classes. Maybe I'll keep this one up. So this is when we offer all the courses. The therapeutic role of play class is also offered in winter, summer. I teach this one with Vanessa, maybe. I think Vanessa teaches this one, and then Kaylee primarily teaches death, dying, and grief. We do have a new Joe is teaching this one as well. So yeah, we have some new not new child life specialists, but new to us. They are very experienced. The assessment preparation and medical terminology, this could be a really wonderful elective that could go into that 3 courses that we offer. I 10 out of 10 recommend having medical terminology in your coursework. This is a very important one. We do a lot of taking medical information and then dissecting it down into ways that, anybody can understand. I find a lot of times when I'm doing my preparations with kids, their parents are listening in, and those explanations that we provide really help it click with parents a lot of the time. So I really do recommend having some sort of medical terminology as well as anatomy, although we don't have that in our program. Palliative care and hospice is taught by Rebecca, and she works actually at Cottage down in Santa Barbara. And so she teaches the palliative care and hospice. And I think this is a really great class to take, because I think there's a big misconception that palliative care is end of life care. And it's really not. It's all about quality of life. And she takes a real deep dive into that. And then family systems. A lot of students have this family system courses when in their child development or human development majors. But if you do need this is a great class to take. It's offered a couple of times a year. The children with disabilities, another wonderful elective class to take. We have found we work so much with neurodiverse patients. My anesthesia clinic that I currently work in, I would say most of my patients have some sort of neurodiversity because, there's not a ton of child life specialists, so they will schedule them with me if they really need extra help. And I work a lot with children with neurodiversity. So it's just such a rich, wonderful course that we provide. Research. Um, Kaylee, do you want to talk? I don't know is it
Sure.
all research methods? Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So I actually answered that question in the chat regarding the requirements for a research class. So sometimes if you've had a bachelor's degree or a graduate level degree that had a research course, oftentimes it will count. So make sure you check that before you're registering. But if you haven't taken a research class, this is a really great one because we're focusing on research methodologies in child life. And so oftentimes depending on what type of hospital you're working at, if you end up going the hospital route, like a traditional child life route, you're going to have the opportunity to participate in research, to conduct it, to help collect research. So this course is really great to get a really basic foundation to work on as you then enter into, there's certain hospitals that are very much research based. And that's going to be really attractive to be able to speak to that when you're having an interview for internship or when you're doing an interview for a job someday, saying, hey, yeah, I did take this class and it was around child life, right? You're going to study different articles and evidence-based research and why, this is how literally like some of our positions are funded by, us presenting research and saying, hey, this is research that this hospital did on child life. And this is why, how much money they saved by hiring a child life specialist. And you can use that and advocate for future roles and positions in your field or maybe at your hospital or site where you're looking for growth.
Yes, and Kaylee, I purposely skipped your class so you could explain it if you want to go back on and answer the question in the chat.
Oh, sure. Here, okay, yeah. So my class, Death, Dying, and Grief in Pediatric Care, I would say, I always ask in the first week, in the first discussion post, like, how are you guys feeling about the class? And I almost am like, would think it's unusual if you weren't feeling a little bit like uneasy or nervous or, not necessarily, quote, looking forward to taking a class called Death, Dying, and Grief in Pediatric Care. I mean, when I'm talking to people, my neighbors, and I'm like, this is what I teach. They're like, wow, that's kind of intense. But I promise by the end of the course, you're going to feel so much more comfortable with the topic. Like death and grief and loss, it's all pervasive. It's all, it impacts all of our lives in a professional way and as a child life specialist specifically, and also, personally, right? So my goal is to try and equip you with the language to kind of address some of these topics and conversations, thinking about, a child's developmental level, maybe some of their cultural, spiritual, religious preferences and how that plays an impact in their grieving process. I really try to equip with just the idea of like tangible loss, like the death of a person, is not necessarily the only thing to grieve, right? There's a million different symbolic losses that we grieve every day, and a lot of people just don't understand or have the validation or the almost like what's the word I'm looking for? Like the permission to grieve, right? So you think about things like divorce and having, parents who are alcoholic, or some of the symbolic losses related to the death of a person, like your roles change or your occupation changes, things like that. So we go over a lot of those things, and yeah, it's a really, really impactful class. We keep the class size pretty small because it is a very intimate topic that we're talking about. Um, but yeah, I really enjoy teaching it. Joe's an amazing instructor as well, so we hope to see you in there.
Awesome. I don't think I talked about therapeutic role of play. This is a really fun class where we talk about normalizing play, distraction play, using play to support children in the hospital, everything from medical play to using play at the end of life. We just have a lot of fun in this class. It's a really nice place to get a great foundation of how to work with children, how to build rapport, and again, we have a good time in this class, or at least I do. What other classes did I miss? Because I went a little out of order because I was looking at the other one page first. Kaylee, did I miss any?
Sorry, I was
Charlotte?
answering a chat.
Oh,
Um,
that's okay.
do you
Did I
want me to
talk
talk
about?
about the prep class right now, or do you
Oh
want me to?
yeah, let me see if that's next. Yes, there we go. Prep class,
Okay,
go.
okay, perfect. And I'll let you answer the question in the chat.
Okay, yep.
Um, so the prep class, the way that this class was created was essentially we saw that students were feeling like, hey, like the classes are online. Where do I kind of get my support and information regarding internship? So I created this course a couple years ago, and it is actually the only class, I believe the only class, yeah, that is not asynchronous. So these are live sessions that we're meeting. It's 4 different sessions, and the days and times kind of vary depending on my availability, and I try to kind of switch it up a little bit so that you have the opportunity to sign up, and if you have commitments on certain days of the week and whatnot. But for example, this May we're going to have a session that we meet on a Thursday and a Friday, 10 to 12 both days, and then the next week same thing, Thursday, Friday, 10 to 12. um, it is a smaller cohort. Typically, we don't have more than 10 students so that we have the opportunity to get to know one another. We do lots of different preparation for internship, but I do have students who are like, hey, I'm actually really early on in my child life journey, and I'm wanting to learn more about what volunteering opportunities are around me, or what, is there practicum or different camps that I can volunteer at in preparation for internship, which is even better because we have time to kind of pour into you and shape, what is kind of help guide your path and what's to come as you're simultaneously taking your academic classes. The first week, we talk a lot about the eligibility assessment. We deep dive into what Kristen gave a general overview of. I help walk you through it. I kind of help to, if you're having any issues with classes counting, I help you navigate that. We talk about pre-internship experiences. We talk generally about what affiliation means. That's a whole nother thing, but we talk deep in that about that in the first session. Then we kind of talk about interviews and what that looks like, how to prepare. And then the third week we do mock interviews, and that's my favorite part because I tailor it specifically to you as a student. So if I have one student who says, hey, I'm applying to UC Davis for internship, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing research and I'm going to try my best to give you an interview, a mock interview, pretend, to prep you for that. And then if I have another student who's like, I'm actually going to do a volunteer role at a hospital in Florida, I'm going to do my research and try and prep you the best I can to shape those questions towards what I might anticipate your interview truly being like. Anything short from like actually giving you any questions that I know. But my goal is to prepare you. I'm going to give live feedback. People get embarrassed about that at first, but I genuinely feel it's like the best way I could possibly prepare you, because then you have an idea of like how to shape your questions and responses when it's the real deal, when you have your actual interviews. And then the last week in the last session, which is that fourth session, it's kind of open-ended. We kind of decide, do we want to review some of your applications? Do we want to do, is there anything left lingering that we want to tackle? And yeah.
And then there were some questions about the Internship Readiness Common App that you do
Oh,
go
yes,
through
yes,
that.
yes, yes. So, okay, so Sophia, I see your question here. Yeah, I absolutely will help with that. I'm not going to be writing it for you, that's for sure. What I'll tell you is I have a handful of students who have maybe attempted to pursue internship before finding our program and not had a success in getting accepted to a program. And so those students, what I ask of them is, hey, and sorry, I meant to note this each week or each session out of the 4 sessions, the first hour is more of a lecture format. I'm telling you, I'm teaching you, I'm giving you all the resources that I possibly can. I'm giving you tips and tricks. I'm giving you phrases that they like to see in applications. I'm telling you that, hey, guess what? I've heard from a specific hospital site that they want to have the actual KSA named, right? On what you're actually, I'm giving you live feedback from what I've heard from my peers, right, who are in the profession, who are reviewing these applications. After I do the lecturing portion, then I ask you to review what your application has already, what you need to kind of do that feedback yourself at first if you've never done it before. Um, then I'll look at it after you've reviewed it once I complete the lecture. But for students who have never done an internship readiness application, we kind of laser focus and narrow in on a couple of the sections. I ask them to work on it as they go. And then the cool thing about the prep class is I tell all my students, I'm now yours. You have me as a resource. So as long as you're not emailing me a week before your application is due, I'm absolutely ready to help you and review and give feedback and things like that. So um, it just depends on where you're at as a student.
Um, I want to answer this question that someone answered in the Q&A, but I'm wondering if I have kind of an opinion about it. So one of them, it says, would you say it's reasonable to try to get a job as a child life specialist before going to graduate school? I'm wondering if I can get a job first, then maybe they would pay for my graduate school. I know ACLP requires a bachelor's as far as degree goes. My concern, if you were looking at graduate school, it would be hard to find someone to pay for it. I don't know a lot of hospitals that will pay for students to go to graduate school.
That's what I was going to say. I've worked at 3 different hospitals, and not one of them has offered or had that type of funding, right? Like child life special, we're really fighting for our salaries to be up to par with some of the other ancillary staff. So they just don't have the budget to be able to pay for a degree. So if you're debating on a higher level degree, I would definitely say pursue it if you have the financial capacity in that season before you apply, because it will definitely make your application stand out and be highly attractive.
Yeah, but to be fair, we have a lot of students who my not current intern, my current last 2 interns both came from UC Santa Barbara with a bachelor's degree, and they're both well on their way to being employed. I think it's going to be no problem for them. Some schools will give some scholarship money or some hospitals, but again, they're very few and far between. A job without no, yeah, Lauren. I have lots of students. We have a good handful in our department that all have bachelor's degree. As long as you're certified, it's not required to have a master's degree. If you want to be in leadership, then you'll probably need to have a master's degree. I'm going to go to the next slide here. Haley, if you want to keep going affiliation, I'll keep working on these
Oh
questions.
yeah, sorry. One thing I wanted to mention to DeLauren is the only thing in regards to graduate school is I will say sometimes when you have I don't see it doesn't seem to be an issue in regards to jobs, but actually with internship, um if you have an application that is identical to another candidate and you have a graduate level degree and somebody else has bachelor's, but you have the same amount of volunteer hours, everything else looks very similar. Of course, they're probably going to go with giving an interview at least to the graduate level. So sometimes I see that that's a competitive factor, but I wouldn't say across the board, and definitely not in regards to jobs, which is crazy. Like that's something that I've kind of noticed. Okay, awesome.
Right.
So,
Sophia answered a question and I dismissed it. But she asked, are some CLS internships paid? And so I said very few. I know some hospitals will provide a stipend, but I know that's very rare that hospitals will do that.
Yeah, it's something that we're looking into. Actually, Sunny, Kristen, and I were just with at UCSF last week, and there was a site that is working towards using grant funding and funding from other places to be able to pay. But generally speaking, I would say 99% of the maybe 98% of internship sites are not paid, and you are responsible for relocation services if you're traveling. So it is something that we kind of talk about often, especially in the prep class or if I have any one-on-ones. We deep dive into that because that is definitely a factor, right, of capacity and if you're able to, and even if you have local options or not, right, to continue living where you're living. It's something we'll kind of dive into in the prep class. Um, okay, how to become affiliated. Um, Generally speaking, what I want to address is it is not required to be affiliated with a university to obtain an internship. However, there are a lot more students who are competing for internship spots as independent or unaffiliated students. Um, and there's fewer internship sites that actually offer unaffiliated options. So I want to address that. But what does it mean to be affiliated? Affiliation essentially means that we as UC Santa Barbara have come together with, let's say, Lucille Packard, Stanford, right? And said, hey, we want to we're willing to accept a student from UCSB. Our legal teams have come together and had a contract in place that says we are responsible for supporting you on the academic side while Lucille Packard, or name whatever, fill in the blank for whatever hospital you're thinking of that requires affiliation and is willing to affiliate with us, and they're responsible for the clinical side and the supervision clinically. The reason why this can be really attractive is because oftentimes when you're applying to a child life internship and they don't require affiliation, sometimes you might feel a little bit lost and kind of like you're doing things on your own versus if you're affiliated with any university for the most part. And especially I can speak to UCSB because we have a course that you're signed up, that you're taking side by side to get that extra supervision. If you have an issue that comes up, right? Say you have the first experience, like a really difficult situation that you encounter, a new diagnosis that you observed a child life specialist sharing with a patient, or you have a conflict that comes up between one of the staff members, or you name it. We're kind of here for you to walk through that and talk through that and facilitate some reflection. And that's definitely something that can be really helpful when you're immersed into this situation for a 600-hour internship, right? Full time. That's a lot going on. Another reason why hospitals like it is because it's covering you in regards to liability and insurance, and there is a portion that you're responsible for paying for on your own, the insurance, which is not a costly, it's not too expensive, but it's essentially saying that we got you covered between the academic and the clinical site. You are going to be supported. And that's definitely the most important. That's super important to us. But we have several students who, I help guide them through the child life prep class, and then we end up, they get accepted to a independent internship, and we're still available to kind of support, but you're not required to, take that next level of support through us. What else did I want to say? If you do have any questions, feel free to email me and I can put that in the chat. But essentially, if you're like, hey, I really, there's these top 4 hospitals that I am really interested in, and I would love to know the status, right? Of like, if they require affiliation, if you have a contract with them, whatever, you name it, just email me and make sure that you put your full name, you put the location of where that site is, you put the hospital name, and if you have any contact information for that site, let me know, because we definitely like to, I like owning that for you. You don't need, that's probably exhausting to manage a million different sites and asking questions. So I'm happy to own that for you and set up meetings with the hospitals to see if they're willing to affiliate or if they're taking any students from UCSB at this time or not.
There's a question if there's any way to take the summer classes with a scholarship. Are there any scholarships for this program? Sunny, do you know the answer to that?
At this point, we don't have any scholarships. I will say we are probably one of the most affordable programs out there. We do, if students are residing in Santa Barbara County, specifically North County, we do have like we have a GROW grant where the GROW grant will cover the tuition, but it's limited to folks in the Santa Barbara, like North County region. So,
Yeah, compared to most graduate programs, this is a pretty affordable program. So just take a look at it and see what you think. All right. Anything else about the affiliation process, Kaylee? And I can just say from personal experience, my last two students were Santa Barbara, and having the academic advisor was just so helpful for our students. You see a lot. I mean, internship's hard. It can be kind of all encompassing, and there's a lot of tough things to process and experience. And so having that person who isn't at the hospital every day that you can talk to, having that academic advisor really does make a world of difference.
Actually, Kristen, I maybe I can add
Yep.
to just I'm picturing you guys as students and kind of thinking about like, well, what is that process and everything? So I would love to like generically share like what that process looks like.
Mhm.
What it might mean is, you email me and say, hey, I'm interested in X hospital. I take a look and I look and let's pretend like we've never worked with them before and we haven't had a student interested in that site. I then email and contact that hospital and I say, hey, would you be willing to be affiliated? I see that you require, let's say require affiliation. Would you be willing to accept one of our UCSB students? I share why I think UCSB students are phenomenal and would be a great candidate for internship. I share that. Oh, also, you need to have 5 classes, academic, not my prep class, but 5 academic courses complete before you are eligible to be affiliated. Sorry, that is a very important factor. But I speak to that in this email with with a hospital site. I try and like promote, yes, be affiliated with us. And if they say yes, then we connect our legal teams. And if they say yes, this is great. That doesn't mean you're accepted as a student. That means you are eligible to apply and say, hey, I can be affiliated with UCSB if you X site select me as a candidate. You don't have, there's nothing that, we guarantee. It's all in your hands, but it gives you more of an opportunity if they do require affiliation that you're eligible to even apply. When you apply, you can put on your application that you have the option to be affiliated. You explain who the internship coordinator is, which would be me. And then if the contract's already in place, then you get selected, then you would sign up for the internship supervision course, which is not necessarily like a curriculum academic course like what might envision. It just allows you to be affiliated. That's what that means, is it allows you to be affiliated with our university during your time of internship. Sometimes it's 1 quarter, sometimes you have to sign up for 2 quarters of that. You have to be enrolled in that while during the duration of your internship. And then that will include some weekly meetings with an academic supervisor who's a certified child life specialist who has experience supporting students through their internship.
Sophia, did that answer your
Oh,
question? She's asking about Florida.
oh yeah, we absolutely have students who are in Florida. We have students who are all over the United States, some in Canada, but that is not at all a barrier. Most of our students are outside of California. So absolutely, you would just want to email me and say, hey, these are the hospitals I'm interested in. Sometimes I write back and I say, hey, they don't actually require affiliation, so you're green light, good to go. Apply once you finish your coursework. And then others might be a case by case, and I can tell you the status of where we're at. I have had students in the past who are residing in Florida, so I may have already had connections with some of those sites.
Okay. Any other questions? We went through a lot of information. See on Facebook that some students are trying to get internships with 30 to 50 applications as their second time, and that seems so scary. Uh, it's just, it can be really scary. It can be overwhelming. Kaylee, do you want to speak to your experiences with some of the students?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a competitive, like it's so crazy, right? Because, and this is something that we kind of talk about in as the nature of the field of child life. It's actually still a generally new field, right? Like it's there's new positions being created all the time. And with new positions, sometimes the focus is on creating these new positions and not offering internship. I will say that, especially within California, we have a lot of our educators and clinical programs trying to come together and try and figure out this. It feels like a crisis, right? Of like, there's not enough internship spots, and we have so many students coming in. And the students who are doing 30 to 50 applications, like, are you, I don't know, I'm assuming you're saying that they have applied to 30 to 50 different sites. What I'll say is that's a lot. I don't know any I've never had any of my students who've done that, and that, there's nothing wrong with that. But I really, to me, like if you're a student who's applied at least one round and not obtained an interview at the least, I'm gonna say you need to take the prep class with me, because I don't have capacity to do one-on-one support with every single student. But if you can sign up for the class, my job is to get you like figure this out, right? And sometimes I'll be honest, that means I look at your application and I'm like, yeah, there's grammar issues, there's spelling issues, you didn't follow instructions, right? I'm gonna give you that feedback. And it's not always like beautiful, but that's actually gonna help you succeed and not have to apply to 30 to 50 places, right? But really I talk a lot about goodness of fit. I don't think, like, are there really 30 to 50 hospitals that you would be willing to and excited about going to? You have to think about that, right? And the other thing is we have students specifically in the Central Valley, what is it like near Valley Madera, Valley Children's. There's only one hospital in that entire, like, what, within like 3 hours of a radius with child life. And I have students who are, it's a mom with multiple teenage kids, and like, we're going to get real creative on how she makes her name known at that hospital, right? With volunteering for camps, for, advocating for whatever it may be, to try and make that thing happen, right? But other students who are super flexible and they're like, hey, I really need to obtain an internship and I need it within this timeline, they might send more applications out. Again, I've never seen that many necessary, but and who knows what that student, I'm not sure who the student is you're referring to on Facebook, but students have different levels of support, right? Like, that's a very
Yeah.
real thing.
I think some students who have just because now the applications are all via email, so it's so much easier to apply. So I think some students just send them out in bulk. Um, but it, like, to even come to San Francisco, I mean, I even put on my application, do your research. It's very expensive here. Do you have a place to live? If you make it to a final interview, we want you to share with us where you're going to live. Because we know a lot of students send out just 50 applications and they may not really be taking San Francisco seriously. I just really keep encouraging students, send places you can go, that you can afford to be. There's a lot of great questions happening in the chat here too. The growth, Kaylee mentioned the growth already. Departments are growing and growing. Salaries range where it depends on your area. There is a salary survey that I believe is on the ACLP website. It might be a couple of years old, but it can give you a better idea of the different salaries in different areas. In California, it varies from hospital to hospital. Children's LA is a lower pay than maybe a UC system. So it really depends on where you get a job. As far as having a second career as child life specialist, we have the person Kaylee was talking about. This is their second career, a little bit older. It can be challenging, but at the same time, you just have, if you put the effort out, get all the courses in, put your time in as an intern, you can make it work. The average salary, again, it depends on where you are. And I do personally work 5 days a week. Most places are full-time employment. There are the occasional part-time jobs that pop up. Those are, they're hard to come by, the part-time jobs. Although there is one in Oakland right now that I can't get anybody to take. But I think it's doable. Depends on where you are too. If you're again, like Kaylee was saying, in the middle of Fresno, it might be a little more challenging.
I was going to mention too, there at most hospitals there's an option to be per diem, which
Mhm.
don't get confused because nurses who are per diem have a very different situation than a child life specialist, and it can vary hospital to hospital. But per diem essentially is you are hired on to be available to cover the shifts of the full-time employees as needed, or maybe if there's like a an event and the full-time staff are required to like go in and help interview new candidates. You might fill in a shift if people are call out sick or have pre-planned vacations. You can fill in. At one of the hospitals I used to work at, I could technically pick up up to full-time hours, but you can't get benefits, so you have to kind of be careful with how many hours, or at least at that hospital you couldn't. But per diem's a really great option. That was my first job out of graduate school. I was per diem and I got to learn all the different units, and it was really incredible to figure out, where do I actually want to be full time? And then I was full time a couple different places before going back to per diem, which was really flexible. Where do we sign up for the internship? So each hospital requires different things for internship. So what your job would be in like it's kind of fully um up to you as a student on where you want to apply to internship. So our job is the academic side and getting you through the coursework. However, if you are interested, if you want to give me an example, I can kind of give you more guidance. But let's say you're a student in the Bay Area, you would probably apply to all the hospitals in the Bay Area. And if you have family or friends in the Sacramento area, you might apply for the Sacramento hospitals. If you have family in Idaho, you would apply to, you know what I mean? So it's depending on where you want to apply. You would research which hospitals you want to apply to and apply to them with whatever they require as a hospital. That's not up to us. Yeah. Uh,
Sunny, when does summer actually open to sign up?
All the classes should be open till the end of the year. So we usually like to have all the courses available so students can plan out the entire year. So pretty much they can register all the way up to winter 2026.
Okay, so you can register now, it sounds like.
okay. Sorry, I want to answer this. It says I thought you did affiliated. So you as a student figure out where you want to apply and you would email me and let me know what those sites are. Because if I was doing affiliations with everyone, there would be thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. So I have to go student, depending on what you want to do. So if you tell me I want to be at this hospital, this hospital, this hospital, then I reach out to those hospitals and I ask if they're willing to affiliate. So we go student by student in what you are wanting to do and where you want to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Lauren, if you can get a bedside volunteer job, do it. Yeah, playroom positions are also really great. But yeah, bedside's going to be the best thing you can find right now because that's one-on-one. You're getting a lot of rich intervention and therapeutic playtime and just learning how to be bedside with our patients. Any other questions? How many courses can be taken at one time? I've had a few students do two or three at a time, but that's a lot. We squeeze a lot in those 10 to 12 weeks. So I would encourage you to kind of think through what your time commitment is. I would say it's pretty intensive. So what do you say, Kayla? How many hours a week do students typically spend on one course? Isn't there like a magic number?
So because our courses are 4 units, it's about it's each unit is like 10 hours a week. So it's 40 hours of learning
Right.
essentially. So students, 4 units is about 40 hours over the course of 10 weeks. So
Mhm.
students can expect to put, between 3.5 to 4, between 3 to 5 hours per week. That's like between watching videos, discussions, readings,
Mhm.
assignments, all of that should take you 3 to 5 hours
We
average.
keep you busy. We
Yeah.
definitely keep you busy.
I'm
the
going to answer Sophia really quick.
Okay.
She was talking about the fall 2025 application window. The thing, Sophia, is it's not technically closed. March 24th is when it closes, but you would have had to already submit your eligibility assessment and your official transcripts, and that takes by the 14th. So if you haven't done that, your window has closed because they take 1 to 3 weeks, and that's why ACLP requires, I sent the link in the chat. I don't know if you saw that or not. And the other thing is there's certain sites that will only take their first 80 applications. So it's definitely like, unless maybe if you are a candidate who's finished your eligibility assessment, you would totally be able to apply by the 24th. But if you haven't, then that would definitely, you'd have to apply for the next window. And you're, as long as, and I'm curious if your courses are all complete because that is a requirement as well.
Oh, I think she said she did her eligibility assessment and sent transcripts. So would the application window be closed
Oh,
for her?
you have. If you have done it already, then you absolutely could apply. But you would, at this point, you're cutting it close. I would say you're probably open for some internship opportunities that don't require affiliation, but that doesn't give us enough time to get an affiliation contract in place if you're looking at, oh, I have 4 more courses to do. Okay.
Oh, yeah, you still need to finish the courses.
Yeah.
Yeah, finish your courses before you even apply. Nobody will look at your application. Like I would just put it to the side because you're not finished yet with the classes.
And then Lauren, it's student by student. I definitely say that that's a lot going on there. And it depends on what you're taking. If you're taking 4 classes that are like easy breezy and you can do it in your sleep, then take 1 class from UCSB. That's fine. But I would say, our classes are very specific in how we prepare you to be a child life specialist. They're very focused. So I wouldn't expect, easy breezy with our program because we really are intentional about preparing you. There, everything that we're doing as your instructors is trying to prepare you for the exam and prepare you for the knowledge-based part of what you're going to be applying in internship. So you really have to be in a place to be pretty focused on content. So I think it's up to you in, some people are really high capacity and some might not, but I would say even for a high capacity person, that would be a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah, the courses, I mean, we do expect you have that expectation that you are going to put that 40 hours in for the full course of the full time. I mean, and we can see how long you're online too. I can look and if a student's really struggling or they're missing an assignment, I can go in and look and if they've spent 3 hours total in 3 weeks, then I know that they're not giving it what they need. So, we do have that expectation that you're going to put in that time. Yeah. All great questions. You guys are brilliant. Any other questions before we? Oh, go ahead, Kaylee.
I want to send this to you guys really quick. This is something that I find helpful for some of our students who seem to kind of be like, this is all new information and I don't know where to look. I'm posting this. It's called Hearts Connected, and they have a running list of the in general the different internships that are available, or actually just in general the hospitals that are available, and it tells you, do they offer student programming? Do they not offer? Do they require affiliation? Do they not? What I do want to say is this isn't necessarily always up to date, so I wouldn't have it be the end all be all, because I mean, that's a lot to maintain, but it's a really good starting point to actually see what's in your area. And you can go by state and then kind of look deeper into like the cities you recognize. So I really highly recommend, if you're kind of brand new to all of this, take a look at it. And it even is a good idea to look at that to see where maybe there's opportunities to start volunteering, which again, like Kristen said, is the very most important thing to get started. I just put it, Lauren, in the chat, but I can post it here as well. Yeah.
I think you just sent it to the host and panelists. Send it
I'm
there.
so sorry. Have I been doing that the whole time in all my things?
Possibly. We will get this technology figured out. Now you can all see it. Great. I did send your email already, I think. And I did to everyone. All right. Okay, just copying and pasting all her chats into where you can actually see them. So we'll stay on for a minute so you guys can copy all those down or just post them into your links. Any other questions before we all sign off? Oh, what would you say the best and worst thing about being a child life specialist is? Um, the best is seeing the success in children, to seeing kids say and believe in themselves and do things that they didn't think were possible. Um, the hardest part is probably the end of life and working with children and seeing the tragedy that you see. So that's probably a very high and a very low. It's been a really nice career, but there's a lot of things you can do with child life. I'm doing a lot of program development right now. I really enjoy that. I love teaching. Have a lot to say after 25 years of doing this. So, um, yeah. Kaylee, what about you?
I would say the best thing about being a child life specialist is that your entire role, like you're always learning, right? Like when Kristen was mentioning this in the beginning, what did you say? You were saying something about oh, dang it, I can't remember, but it made me think like there's so many times when I walk into a situation as a child life specialist and I don't know what the diagnosis, in the regards to the medical terminology class. Even if I took a class like that in graduate school, but when I actually in the real game of like child life, I walk into, I used to be in the ER full time. And every unit, every single bed that you walk into is a different situation with a different child, and the situation looks different and different doctors. And I'm always learning. And I think that's the best part because I'm never an expert in the field. You can take your skills as a child life specialist and use it in a million different ways, right? Like Sunny was mentioning, like her daughter, at the dentist, right? Like you could use a child life specialist at the dentist, right? With my son, I could use a child, I could have used a child, I could use an adult life specialist actually at that time. But to help him with, his blood draw, right? But that's not necessarily in the hospital setting, right? That was more outpatient, like I guess it's technically hospital medical, but in a school setting, like that's the best part to me is the skills you learn as a child life specialist are amazing and resourceful no matter where you go. And I love that piece of always learning and growing. I think the hardest part is I'm trying to think, like it's actually not the end of life for me. I think that is hard, really hard if you're really like get to know a patient really well. But to me, I actually oddly like enjoy that piece, probably because I'm teaching death, dying, and grief in pediatric care. I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to walk alongside families in that regard. But what's the challenging? I think some of the challenging pieces are if you don't have staff who are receptive to your role, sometimes they're like, oh, play lady or what, So just owning that and being like, yeah, we play and we also teach and we also educate and we also prepare and that part. Yeah, sorry, Kristen, I'm reading.
Oh, sorry, there's a Q&A I'm missing. I'm failing at my job here. Okay.
The soonest I would be able to start is winter 2026 if I have not started the eligibility assessment. Let me see. I posted the deadline. Doo-doo-doo. Here we go. I'm pulling that up for you. You can see, hopefully you guys can see the deadline now. So if is winter 26 if I have not started the eligibility assessment. That is correct. Yeah. Yep, the
Takes
application,
time to get the eligibility assessment kind of
it
through.
does take time because you don't know what's going to count or what will unless all your classes are pre-approved.
Yeah. Well, guys, we have hit the 6:30 mark, so I want to make sure I'm keeping track of our time here. You have Kaylee's email. You can always email me if you've been in my class before. But we would, what is the Facebook called? It's just the UC Santa Barbara Child Life page. Yeah, it looks like Sunny's typing that answer in. Yeah,
Perfect.
I didn't go back to graduate school till I was 40, so yeah, age is just a number. Go ahead, Ken, Sunny.
Okay, thank you guys so much. I do want to respect everyone's time, and then hopefully we will see you guys in our future classes.